On 23 January 2023, the Commission sent you a request for the submission of the 5-year declaration of assets and personal interests, and on 30 January you submitted your 5-year declaration. The Commission also asked candidates to voluntarily complete and submit an ethics questionnaire, and you did so on 5 July last year, 2022. The Commission sent you 5 rounds of questions on 10 April, 28 April, 5 May, 16 May and 18 May 2023, respectively. You were asked a total number of 18 questions, including 57 subparts, and 35 of the questions included a request for further documentation. The present hearing was originally scheduled, in consultation with you, to take place last Friday, 26 May. However, on Thursday, 25 May, you requested to postpone the hearing due to last-minute pressing other obligations, to which the Commission agreed. For that reason, the hearing is taking place today. According to Article 3, Paragraph 4 of the Evaluation Rules of the Commission, a candidate may not provide information, documents, or other materials during the hearing if the Commission requested these earlier and the candidate did not provide them within the time specified, unless, of course, the candidate provides sufficient justification. Members of the Commission will now start with asking you questions, and Nona Totsoria will start with asking questions first. We will try to keep our questions short and to the point, and we ask that your answers be short and to the point as well. Oh, sorry, Nadia, sorry. Natasha, you have the floor.
Greetings, Mr. Plevan. You've already received the facts. And we will first start with the financial issues that have to do with the sources of funds for the purchase of the apartment. In January 2016, you and your wife bought a 62.6 square meters apartment in Chisinau for the price of about 342,000 lei. According to the information received from Lara, the apartments in the same block of flats and with a similar surface area were sold in 2016 for about 31,000 euros. In your written answers provided to the Commission, you explained that the price was negotiated and that the apartment was in a deplorable and uninhabitable condition, which is why you purchased it for about 15,000 euros. You submitted to the Commission pictures to prove what condition the apartment was in, and you've also estimated that the repair works cost up to about 10,000 euros, or about 220,000 lei. And those were expenditures that you've incurred in 2016. In 2016, the total value of expenses incurred in relation to the procurement of the apartment and the repairs in that apartment, so that amount was about 562,000 lei, which is about 25,000 euros. In terms of sources for this procurement, you've indicated the following 7 sources. First source, 5,000 euros, the equivalent to 110,000 lei in 2016, was donated by your mother back in 2011 and kept in cash. Source number 2, 200,000 lei, donation at the wedding from 2013 that you've also declared in your 2013 annual declaration. The third source, $3,000, that you declared as a donation from your mother-in-law in 2014. I will not now also specify the equivalents because that'll complicate the hearing. You can see them in front of you. The fourth source, 98,000 lei that you've obtained after the sale of an apartment, that you explained that that was actually a room in a dormitory. The sixth source, 7,000 lei, which was an interest rate from a deposit, bank deposit, and source number 7, 149,000, which is the salary that you and your wife had in 2016. And from this amount, if you subtract CEP, then it means that you would have had available 81,000 lei. In total, in lei, the total sum of the 7 sources amounts to 621,000 lei. And just to clarify, the sources 2, 3, 4 and 5, you said that they were used for the purchase of the apartment, and 1367 for the repair works. And now, having read out the facts, I will now ask you a couple of clarification questions. Please confirm that in January 2016, you purchased this apartment for the approximate amount of about 15,000 euros. I confirm that the amount was 16,000 euros in euros. The price of this apartment, you explained that this price was negotiated, and that was the reason why it was about half of the estimation provided by the real estate company Lara. Is that correct? I explained that in addition to the fact that it was negotiated, the apartment was in a bad condition, and I provided pictures as to that. I am sure that if Lara would have evaluated the apartment the way it was in when we bought it, then it would have estimated an amount of 30,000 euros. And you can see that in front of you, so you confirm that we got it right as for the sources. 245, these are the sources that were used for the purchase of the apartment, and the sources number 1367 were used for the repairs of the apartment. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. Fine. And you also mentioned that the repair works were performed in 2016. Can you explain when were the renovation works? When did you finish renovating the apartment? When did you move in? We moved in before the new year. It was all throughout 2016 that was happening. Thank you. Is there anything that you would like to add to this issue? Because next there are going to be a couple of questions with regards to some of these sources that were read out before. Nothing to add. Fine. Then I will move on to the next aspect that has to do with the $3,000 that you declared as a donation from your mother-in-law in 2014. Your wife declared them in the annual declaration for 2014. You explained that this amount was received by your wife in order to purchase the apartment, and you declared that there was no documents whatsoever as to that. They were just given for the purchase of the apartment. You also explained that in 2009, the period 2009-2018, your mother-in-law worked as a nanny abroad on the basis of an entrepreneurial patent. You provided the name and the address of the family where she worked. You provided copies of the entrepreneurial patents issued in the name of her mother-in-law for 2017 and 2018. And you provided copies of her passport, confirming the exits and the entrances from and to Moldova over 2014-2019. In the answers provided to the Commission, you also mentioned that her income could be estimated at around $1,500 a month, and that her work schedule was that for each 3 months of work, she would get a month of vacation, which would mean about $13,500 for 9 months of work per year. So you mentioned that that was her work regime in that country over 2009-2019. Concurrently, in Moldova, between 2009-2021, she's registered a total income of 56,000 lei. You also mentioned in your answers to the Commission that your mother-in-law had requested supporting documentation from the family that you worked for, but you did not provide documentation further on that would have otherwise confirmed the sources of funds that you referred to before 2014. Please confirm that you received $3,000 as a donation for the purpose of purchasing of the apartment in 2014, and that your wife received that amount from her mother. Is that correct? That is true. For a number of years, we were looking for an apartment that we wanted to buy. And so the parents, the mother-in-law, gave us that money for a particular apartment, not for the 2016 apartment, but just for us to get a place to live in. And you declared that this amount came out of the income that she earned abroad between 2009 and 2018 while she worked as a nanny. Is that correct? That is correct. Between 2009 and 2014. But didn't she work between 2009 and 2018? So 2009-2018 was the period, but the 3,000 was for the period 2009-2014. Correct. And you provided the address and the family, the surname of that family. Is that correct? Yes. And you provided copies of the entrepreneurial patents issued in the name of your mother-in-law for 2017 and 2018. And you provided copies of her passport confirming her exits and entrances from and to Moldova for the period 2014-2019. Is that correct? That is correct. The copy of the patents, we did not give the copies, but what we found at the home of the mother-in-law, well, what we found, that's what we provided to you. But this can be easily checked with the border police when it comes to the PTFs, the border crossing points, the BCPs, rather. Considering that she was traveling once in a while. She was 50 years old. She would go to the Russian Federation to work. She's been a widow since 1995. And her only child is my wife. The only grandson is my son, and I am the only son-in-law. So what she earned out of her work, she would dedicate to her children. But also, a couple of minutes ago, you said that what you submitted, the patent and the copies of the passports, that they had to do with her work between 2018 onwards, but 2009-2014, for that period. You did not provide anything, is that right? That is correct. A lot of time has passed already, and indeed, my mother-in-law did not keep. She had a work agreement in the Russian Federation. She worked for a salary that was smaller than the real one in the contract that was the reality is in the Russian Federation. At that time, she did not keep the contracts. And the apartment that she lived in, she's also renovated it in the town of Don Dusheni. So not all the documents were kept. They were not quite relevant. What we kept were the last two patents for 2018, 2019. But I would like to reiterate that this can be, I don't have access to information on the border crossing activity because she's in Italy. She doesn't have the possibility to give me a power of attorney for me to look into that information. And as a third party, I would otherwise need it to seek that information to prove that every 3 months she would cross the border with a break in 2010 or 2009 or 2010. She broke her leg. So she took a longer break and she stayed for that time in Moldova. Around that time, I wasn't even married. Fine. Can you confirm that you estimated the income of your mother-in-law at around $13,500 a year? That is correct, on the basis of what my mother-in-law told me. And this income, did it apply to the entire period 2009-2019? Yes. So it's for all the years. That's an average income that was calculated on the basis of her monthly income. And you said that, but I would like you to confirm again that you don't have other documentation except for the documents that you've already presented. You don't have other documentation except for that. That is correct. Is there anything that you would like to add with regards to this matter, or shall we move to the next one? We can move to the next one. Fine. In 2010, you bought a 23 square meters apartment for 98,000 lei, about 6,000 euros. The cadastral value of this apartment, as well as its sale price in 2015, was 98,789 lei. You declared the income received at the sale of this apartment in your 2015 declaration. You did not provide the copy of the purchase contract of 2010. However, you noted that you did not keep that copy, and you informed the Commission that you requested it from the Public Services Agency. You did not submit to the Commission this document yet. In your written answers, you noted that this apartment was bought by your parents because you did not have any source of income at that time. You annexed the employment contracts of your mother, who has been working in one of the European states since 2004. And according to those documents, over 2007-2010, your mother earned 40,000 euros, approximately. You were asked by the Commission to explain the difference between the sale and purchase prices and the market price of the apartment, given the fact that, according to the information received from Lara Real Estate Company, the market price of similar apartments in 2010 was 11,000 euros, and in 2015, 9,000 euros. In your answers to the Commission, you explained that you did not have an apartment, but a room in a dormitory that did not have some basic facilities, such as kitchen and so on and so forth. You also stated that you were not present during the negotiations of the sales contract and that you only signed the contract. You claimed that the deplorable and uninhabitable conditions determined the contract price of the apartment. You also emphasized that between 2010 and 2015, neither your parents nor you had made any investments in that dormitory room. You stated that you didn't live there because it was uninhabitable. You also added that the dormitory room was on sale for about 2 years and that you had to sell it at the price offered by a buyer. You noted that there was no capital gain and therefore no tax liability emerged. Now I will ask you some questions. In 2010, you bought a 23 square meters apartment in Chisinau and you bought it for 98,789 lei, and you sold it for the same amount, which was the cadastral value. Is that correct? I would like to provide a number of explanations. In 2010, I was in my 3rd year at the university, and I didn't have a source of income, and my parents decided to purchase this room, dormitory room. It's not an apartment. Maybe not everybody knows what that is about. It's a dormitory, and the room doesn't have its own bathroom, its own kitchen, its own toilet. There is one common toilet and bathroom that is shared by the inhabitants of the dormitory, and the condition was quite bad. And rather, the neighbors, for instance, they would be indulging in drinking. And so there was some intention to make some changes to the apartment, some repairs, but then we changed our minds, and I signed the contract. The apartment was registered on my name, but then I sold it, and I took the money for that because that was something, in a way, that was the contribution of my parents, one of the ways in which my parents contributed to me having a place to live as a son. And if Lara would have appreciated that, if they would have seen that room in the dormitory, you see, they wouldn't have established that value. First of all, Lara looked at it as an apartment, but it's not an apartment, it's a dormitory room. An apartment is supposed to have all those facilities. But you provided documentation that confirmed the income of your mother of 40,000 euros over 2007-2010. Is that correct? That is correct. I mentioned that my mother has been working in Italy since 2004. And in this period, 2004-2007, she's been working without an employment contract. The times were like that back then. When she went to Italy, she started working there. Over time, a law was passed there that allowed one to have an agreement, an employment contract with people who were not residents of the EU. Now you can use a biometric passport to travel there. It's easier. But she concluded the contract in 2007. She received the permit to stay there in 2007. So she didn't go there on vacation. She was working there, caring for elderly people. And her income is much bigger if we consider the income that she received without an employment contract between 2004 and 2007. The sale and purchase agreement of 2010, you don't have it. You don't have that contract. And you informed us that you filed a request in that regard to the public services agency. Is that correct? That is correct. We've been moving to different places over time, and we didn't keep those documents. When you were asked by the Commission about the difference between the market value of similar apartments in 2010 and 2015 and the sales and purchase prices, you confirmed what you just said now, that it was actually a room in a dormitory, and that for that reason it wasn't possible. I mean, for that reason, well, that is what explains the price difference, that in fact the estimate and the market values were indicative of an apartment where they asked for an apartment, but that was not an apartment, but a room in a dormitory. Concurrently, you bought it and you sold it for the same amount. Can you explain how was it possible to buy it in 2010, then selling it in 2015 for exactly the same amount? In the contract, you can see the cadastral value because the price paid in euros was approximately the same. If we were to establish an equivalent of 5,000 euros, then that would be more or less the price that was indicated in the contract. And that was the decision of the notary as well, who decided on who contributed to that decision. I think I know what you are going to say, but can you tell us what was the purpose of buying that apartment in 2010 since you never lived there? Can you explain what was the purpose? At that time, I was a student. That was a decision of my parents, considering their income and their plans. In the meantime, I got married. It wouldn't have been possible for myself and my wife to renovate that 20 square meters room and live there, so we decided to buy an apartment. Having the money from the wedding and having also some savings that our parents would give us over the years, so the 5,000 euros that I referred to, and it was there were donations and some 3,000 euros from the parents. Thank you. Now I would like us to look at another issue, the 7,000 euros loan. But if there's anything else that you would like to add with regards to the apartment, then you can do that now, or if not, we'll move on to the next issue. No, I provided all the explanations in the answers. In 2020, your wife received a loan of 7,000 euros from her mother. The loan was not disclosed in your 2020 annual declaration. However, in your 2021 annual declaration, you indicated the 7,000 euros loan which was received in 2020. The due date for the loan repayment being 2030. You explained in the answer provided to the Commission in writing, you explained that the debt of 7,000 euros was declared in your 2021 annual declaration, but that you had omitted to declare it in your 2020 annual declaration. In her 2020 annual declaration, for the last 3 years, your wife disclosed the loan of 7,000 euros received in 2020 from you, with the due date of the loan being 2022. However, in her 2021 declaration, she already disclosed the loan of 7,000 euros received from her mother in 2020, with the due date for the loan repayment being 2030. In the written answers to the Commission, you declared that the loan of 7,000 euros was granted for the purpose of purchasing a car, Ford C-Max. You mentioned that no contracts or agreements whatsoever were concluded in relation to this loan. You noted that the conditions for reimbursement of the loan were also not indicated and the loan was not repaid yet. You provided a copy of the residence permit issued to your mother-in-law that is valid until September 2024 in one of the European states, and you provided financial documents confirming her income for the period 2021 to 2022, as well as the employment contract with the start date of January 2021. You did not, however, provide any documentation confirming the income received by your mother-in-law over the period 2019-2020. You explained in the written answers that over 2019-2020, your mother-in-law had been working without an employment contract and that her monthly income was about 1,000 euros and a working schedule being 3 working months and 1 month vacation. Over 2019-2022, she has been living and working in that country due to the pandemic. He also noted that starting with 20 January 2021, the monthly income of your mother-in-law was 1,150 euros. You estimated that between December 2019 and December 2020, she's earned 13,800 euros. You also stated that the loan of 7,000 euros was taken in December 2020, when your wife bought that car referred to above. Can you confirm that in 2020 your wife received a loan of 7,000 euros due in 2030 from her mother without having an agreement in that regard? That is true. My wife was on a maternity leave, and she was supposed to return to work. So in the summer of 2020, we purchased a car, Peugeot 2006. It was about 2000, the year 2000. It was for the purpose of her going to work, and she needed to learn to drive in Chisinau. We sold that car. The value was quite small. We didn't have enough money to buy a much better car, so the mother-in-law decided to give us a hand. She decided to give us some money. And in December 2022, I bought at the auction in the USA a Ford C-Max for $2,075, and so including the auction fee, it was a bit more than $2,600. All the cars that are bought from the US, they come along with certain issues, and we've imported that car, and it was paid. We paid $2,700 in December 2020. And that money, we were borrowed that money in December 2020. But the money was spent up to March 2021. For more than 2 months, it took more than 2 months for the car to come all the way from the US to Moldova. So there were some renovations and repairs. So we had to pay all the duties and taxes, and that was covered from the 7,000 euros and from other savings that we've had.
You declared that loan in your 2021 declaration, but you forgot about it in 2020, is it right? Yes, that's true. That was an omission. I'd like to clarify that the loan took place in December 2020, and that may have been the reason why I omitted it, because I was thinking that money was loaned in 2021, because, as I said, we got the money in 2020, but they were spent until March 2021. That included repairing the car, transporting the car, sea transport from Germany to Moldova, payment of excise duty for the car, and other repair-related expenses. Could you please explain why in the 2021 declaration, your wife declared that in 2020 she got a loan from you, 7,000 euros that was due in 2022, but then in the next declaration, she already declared it was from a mother and due in 2030. The agreement between my wife and her mother were just between them. I don't know why she set such a deadline, even though mother-in-law, from her point of view, she just donated the money. But my wife, given that the parents helped us along the years, she decided that we'll have to reimburse the money until 2030. No, sorry, maybe I did not. Maybe I was not clear enough. It's not about the due date, 2030. Please explain with the wife. If you asked me that question during the questions round, I would have asked my wife. That probably was a mistake. Or maybe she thought that we would reimburse the money in 2022. But conditions the terms were set between my wife and her mother. So it was never between you and your wife, this loan, between me and my wife. That was the question. In the 2020 declaration, your wife declared, no, that probably was an error. There could not be a loan between husband and wife, especially since the property is owned together. You submitted copies of documents that prove that your mother-in-law lives in one of the European states. And again, you provided information about her income for the years 2021, 2022, correct? Yes, that is true. But do you agree that income in 2021, 2022 are not relevant to what she was receiving in 2019 and 2020? That is correct, but I'd like to explain. So my mother-in-law went to work in June 2019 first, based on her biometric passport, that gives a possibility to a Moldovan citizen to be on the territory of the EU just for visiting, not for work, for 3 months. So she worked for 3 months, replaced another lady who took vacation. So she was a replacement worker for 3 months. And if you take a look at her coming and leaving regarding her passport, she entered the country exactly 3 months after, like September 2019. So that was the time when she worked without an employment contract. So exactly after 3 months, the law allows you spending 90 days in the EU and then 90 days in Moldova. So on 24th of December 2019, she went again to Bologna, where she stayed until the summer of 2022. So these 3 months, she worked without an employment contract. But since December 2019 until January 2021, she worked without an employment contract. She was supposed to come back in March 2020, 3 months after. So she had to come back to Moldova, but because of the COVID pandemic, she stayed in Italy. And this, there was a law passed in Italy that allowed employment of the ones who worked informally to get employed officially and get a sojourner permit. So for that reason, if I may finish my work, so until November, December 2020, she worked informally with a salary of around 1,150 euros. Why do I say around? Because in Italy, all days off, like red days, are paid twice and paid in cash. Mr. Plevan, once more. First time in 2014. When did your mother leave? My mother-in-law left in 2019, this last 26th of June 2019. And she worked 3 months, yes, until 23rd of September 2019. And then she spent 3 months in Moldova until December 24, 2019. So on 24th of December 2019, she left through the airport. She flew to Bologna. There is a copy. And since then, she stayed in Italy until June 2022. So that you also said that before the official contract of 1,150, she had around 1,000. So in 2019, she got around 3,000 euros, yes, approximately. In 2020, did she continue to work like that, 3 months and then 1 month of vacation, or did she work continuously? I explained, since it was a pandemic, she could not come back. So in December 2019, she changed her workplace. She went to another workplace. Actually, she keeps working there until now. And because of the pandemic, she couldn't come back in 2020 to Moldova. And she stayed there, working without an employment contract. And then around June 2020, a law was passed that allowed concluding contracts. So she went to the commune, she filed the necessary documentation, and in 2021, an employment contract was concluded, and so 1 year later, she got the right to reside there. So could you please explain, you probably discussed the salary, not now, but before the employment contract, until December 2020. She was getting money cash or bank transfer? It was cash. Also, when she works based on an employment contract, she still gets money cash. So in 2021 until now, so even if her contract says 4 hours, she works actually 24/7. She works, she lives in the house of the old lady that she takes care of, and the salary is different from what says in the contract, so it's different. You actually anticipated another question that I wanted to ask. Does she pay for stay, for residence and food? No, she's a badanta. taking care of an old person. She lives in the house of that person, she sleeps there, and everything is on the account of the employer. Moreover, the law also provides for certain addition for food, especially during the period when she has days off, if I'm not mistaken. So, but she works with no days off. So she works 24/7, including Sundays, which is paid double. And these things are, well, started in 2021 only. They are specified in the contract. Well, the contract is for half a day's work, 4 hours, but you understand that half a day's work would be half a salary. Half a salary is like there's no reason to work for 10,000 lei in Italy. These are the conditions. Such, well, that's what the employer offered, and she accepted because her interest is to work, to have income. And, well, the employer probably has a different interest. Okay. I don't have any other questions. I just want to clarify that we finished everything about source of funds. You confirmed about December 2021. But for 2019-2020, besides copies of her travels with the passport, you have nothing that would, no statement, nothing that could say that this is how much money the mother-in-law received. Is just what you are saying. Is that right? All the information that I provided, including the questionnaire, is subject to criminal liability. I am aware of the fact that if I declare lies, that's Article 352 of the Criminal Code about false statements. Therefore, I declared all truthful information as it is in reality. Would you like to add anything to this topic? It is impossible to submit certain documents about income. Well, my mother-in-law was working informally. That is the reality. We should not hide from the reality. This reality is not about what happens in Moldova. It's a European country. Well, we know the reality, but in some European countries, the ones who hire informally sometimes agree to provide some documents to the people when we ask. That's why I asked you if we are done with this topic, or maybe you have something, but you did not think of submitting. You understand very well. If the employer provides some statements, he would have to, bear the liability in Italy for these violations.
Anyone else have any questions? Tatiana, please go ahead.
Greetings, Mr. Plevan. I would like to clarify one thing. So you got married in 2013. You purchased the apartment in 2016. During that time, you had that room in the dormitory where you said it wasn't possible to live. But where did you live during that time? My parents had an apartment, Telecentru sector, and we lived there. In your parents' apartment. Yes, your parents. The parents. Your parents. Yes, that's right. Thank you. I would like to add here that between 2007 and 2013, 2007-2013, I lived in a dormitory. Until 2011, in 2011, I graduated university. In 2011 to 2013, I had my master's studies. I lived with my wife, well, separately, we were not married. We were living in a student dormitory. And during 2013, we lived in my parents' apartment.
No other questions? Then we move to the next round of questions in closed session now. Yeah. So now then by that being said, I would like to give you the opportunity now to make a brief closing statement before we come to the end of the hearing. So please go ahead, Mr. Plevan.
Thank you. I will be brief. What is certain now, the Commission did not deny the existence of secret, unofficial notes from NAC and from intelligence service about me. I would like to have access to these notes. I would have liked to have access to it before my public hearing. That would be the fair thing to do. Thank you.
This will bring us to the end, because as the policy is with not only your case, but of course with all candidates, is that we always provide a documentation to the candidate that the Commission has been making use of in the evaluation of a candidate. Of course, the Commission does receive more information, but we only share with the candidate these pieces of information that we consider relevant for our own evaluation, and others will not be shared because they also are not part of our own evaluation. That is how our process works. With that being said, we come to the end of the hearing. I thank you again for providing answers to the questions we had in writing, and also today in our hearing today. The Commission will now withdraw for deliberations, and as much as possible the Commission will strive at delivering a decision within a month after the date of this hearing. I hereby declare this hearing closed, and thanks again for being with us today, Mr. Plevan. Thank you.